Okay, hello everyone. My name is Marco, but you can call me Marco, and let's get reading. Today we're doing the first episode of TBR Minimize. This is a vlogging series that I'm going to start doing because recently I looked at the amount of physical books I had on my TBR and it is way too many. I have exactly 442 books on my physical TBR, and I'm going to try to get that down to 100. I will say this should be pretty easy. I did check everything. 288 of those books are comics and manga, and 154 of those books are novels and nonfiction. So as long as I read 54 of my novels and nonfiction, I can easily read the comics and manga. The problem is, the reason I have so many books is that I struggle with reading nowadays. I still love reading a lot, but it's really a motivation thing for me. I just don't feel motivated to read as much as I used to, though I still am excited to read, which is why I haven't really read that much in the past 3 years. So all of these books have just been accumulating, but I really want to get down to it because at the end of the day I really do love reading. So I'm gonna try to read consistently from now on. But yeah, we're just gonna talk about the books I'm currently reading, and we're gonna try to get that lower than 442 for this week. I'm not gonna say I'm going on a book buying ban. I'm just saying I'm gonna try to buy less books from now on, and I think I'm gonna stick to that. I used to go to the bookstore weekly because I could get points if I donated books, and I used to get 50% off used books. I'm gonna try to stop doing that from now on because it's really becoming a problem. My plan is that I'm only gonna buy a book if it is a book in a series that I'm caught up on. I'm going to try to stick to that, but I'm going to try to minimize my TBR as much as possible down to 100 because it is getting out of hand. Anyways, I want to talk about the books I'm reading this week, so let's go ahead and do that. So the first book I'm reading is My Vampire vs. Your Werewolf. This is a fun middle grade monster fighting fantasy novel. It's really fun so far. Basically, in this world, there are these kids, and these kids basically train monsters to fight each other. And if the monsters of these kids win enough fights, then the kids will get a wish granted. And we're basically following these 4 characters. I think their name is Gabe, Hayden, June, and Trad, as they train their monsters and try to fight for their wishes. I'm only 70 pages into this book. I believe it's only 220 pages, so should be an easy read. It's been really fun so far. I will say the dialogue is not the best. It's giving kind of corny kids fantasy. I'm okay with it so far because I do think this book is fun, and I honestly don't think that the dialogue is so atrocious. I just personally am not the biggest fan of it, but I do plan on continuing this. Next up, we have a book that I am currently 200 pages into this, and there are only 250 pages. Inside Out and Back Again. This is about this girl who used to live in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. However, she had to leave due to the Vietnam War. It's basically about her being accumulated to the US and the racism she faces while she's in there. This was an easy read at the beginning. However, becoming a bit of a harder read for me personally, just because it's very heavy with its topics, and it made me very angry the way the main character was facing racism. So I did take a break from this book, but I do think it's a good book. I do think it's an important book, and I do plan on continuing to read this. I just took a little break from it, but I'm gonna try to read only 20 pages a day for this one. Usually I read 50 pages a day for a book, but this one I'm gonna try to stick to 20, just because I do need breaks from books like these at times. So yeah. It's also a book written in verse, so it should be an easy read. And then we have a book I just started today, The Last Gate of the Empire, or The Last Gate of the Emperor, my bad. This seems to be a middle grade sci-fi. I don't know anything about it yet. I love sci-fi, and I feel like there isn't that much middle grade sci-fi, so I'm really curious about this book as well. Yeah, it looks really fun. This is also by the author who made Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. I haven't read that series yet. I do own the first book, so hopefully I enjoyed this author, so that way I'll be more motivated to read that book as well. And then lastly, this is kind of embarrassing, but I am reading a light novel. Basically, light novels are if you turned an anime or manga into a novel series, and I'm reading The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I really enjoyed the anime of this series when I was a child. However, I'm reading it currently, and I realize there are a lot more problems in this series than I remember. I do still plan on reading the entire series. I'm just not sure how I'm going to keep up with this so far, but I am 80 pages into it, and it's only a 200-page book, so this should be an easy read as well. So anyways, I'm going to read those. I have a book I need to pick up from the library, so I'm going to do that first, and then after that, I'm going to spend the whole day reading. I also plan on reading some manga today. Maybe I'll read some of my comics I have on my TBR. Anyways, that's my check-in for now, and I'll be back after I've read some more. So I did something I probably shouldn't have, and that is I bought 2 more books, but it's okay because they're part of a series, and I did have that rule that if it's a part of a series, then it's okay to buy. But first, let's talk about the book I got on hold. I finally got the 4th book in the Cucumber Quest series. This is a graphic novel series that I've been reading for a while now. I read like the first 3 books a while back, and the story seems to be getting like into a darker turn from what I've been looking into. Looks really interesting. I feel like the first 2 books weren't as strong as the 3rd book, and I feel like this series is finally getting into its stride. But I still did like this series in the beginning. But I am planning on reading this. I feel like it's going to be really interesting. Let's talk about the 2 books in the series I bought. I bought these 2 books in the same series, Bullet That Missed and The Last Devil to Die. These are the 3rd and 4th book in this series. I forgot what the series is called. They were used for $7 total, and buying these 2 would be $18 each, and I got them for $7 instead. That's the danger with used bookstores or used places in general. You can find a lot of good deals with books, but yeah, I bought these 2. Anyways, I'm gonna go back to reading. Okay, hello everyone. It has been a day. It is currently the morning, very early in the morning. Not too early in the morning. I think it's like 7 a.m. I have read 3 manga, and I'm still reading the novels I've been reading, but I want to talk about the books I've already finished so far. I finished Ice Guy and Cool Girl Volume 3. This is a slice of life romance with a bit of a fantasy twist. It's okay so far. Probably won't buy any more volumes after I finish the volumes I already have. I have up to Volume 5, so I only have 2 more volumes to read, and I probably won't buy any more from this series just because it's very okay run-of-the-mill romance, and I feel like I definitely think the anime was better because the anime had a stronger plot structure, and I really needed the plot for me to feel connected to these characters or for me to be interested in this series. And since this is more of like just like a snippet of their daily lives, I just don't feel as connected to this plotline or these characters. I gave it 3 stars. I think it's okay. So I gave all of the manga 3 stars, just so you guys know. But I also read Fuku Fuku Kitten Tales. This is a manga by the author of Cheese Sweet Home, and we basically follow this cat during the time that they're a kitten, and it's just about them doing like kitten stuff. It was cute, it was nice, but nothing special in my eyes. So I gave it 3 stars. It was pretty decent. The last manga I gave 3 stars was Soul Eater: The Perfect Edition Volume 3. So I watched Soul Eater the anime, and I got really interested in reading the manga. I feel like one thing I don't like about Soul Eater is I think the beginning is very slow, and I think it takes a while for the series to actually get interesting. But since I've watched the anime, I know it does get interesting, and I know it does get better. And because of that, I am planning on continuing this series. I'm on Volume 3 so far. I'm about to read Volume 4 today. I'm going to try to read a volume every day. I have like a few volumes of this series. I give this 3 stars. From what I remember, we basically get to the part where people start infiltrating DWMA, and that's when I think the series actually gets good, in my opinion. Because I feel like before that, it was just a lot of meandering in my eyes. But now I feel like it's finally getting somewhere. So I'm really excited to continue the series. Anyways, I am currently 140 pages into the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone. I think it's very problematic. I feel like it has a lot of issues. The way the character Asahina is treated in this series is really weird and like creepy, and it's like very fan servicey, and I just don't like it. I wouldn't recommend this series to anyone. I only think you would like this series if you already had an emotional attachment to it when you were younger. That's the only reason I feel like I'm still reading this series, because I loved it as a kid, but now that I'm looking at it as an adult, I'm like, oh my god, what is wrong with the series? So no, I would not recommend this to anyone, but I am going to continue reading it. I continue with My Vampire vs. Your Werewolf. We are finally getting to the part where the werewolf and vampire start fighting, and it's really exciting. I'm really excited. I think, so far, I think that the author is trying to make us root for the vampire, because the vampire seems to have a lot more superpowers than the werewolf. I want to root for the underdog, so I'm currently voting for the werewolf. I just started The Last Gate of the Emperor. This is okay so far. I think it's a really fun book. It's basically about this character who has to win this game, and if he does win this game, then he'll get a lot of money, and he's trying to win this game so that way he can continue paying for his schooling. It's just a really fun book so far. I think it'll be interesting. And I have not read any of Inside Out and Back Again. I really need to get to this. I've just been avoiding it, to be honest, because I've been trying to read everything else. Like, I've been reading so much, but I haven't been focusing on this. I'm gonna try to focus on this. Okay, hello everyone. I am back. It is the next day. I'm just gonna keep talking about the books I've read recently. Because I did read 3 more books. 2 of them were manga, and 1 of them was a book I've already told you guys about. So first off, I read Soul Eater Volume 4 of the Perfect Edition. I gave this 3 stars. I don't know what it is with anime and manga and them adding constant fan service. Like, this volume would have been, like, amazing, or, like, it would have been really good if it wasn't for the unnecessary fan service there was in this few chapters. Everything that was going on in this series is so interesting. So I don't know why we want to be distracted by these, like, weird fan service scenes. It just annoyed me, and I was very frustrated by that. But overall, pretty good series so far. Not something I'd recommend though because of the fan service, but I did enjoy this, even though it did have like this unnecessary fan service. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Next up, let's talk about another manga I gave 3 stars, The Ice Guy and Cool Girl Volume 4. This was okay, this was solid. It's just another thing of like the romance was okay for me, the characters were okay for me, but nothing really stood out to me. I definitely feel like I mentioned before, the anime was better, just because I feel like there was a stronger plot line. There were still the same plot beats in the manga as in the anime. I just feel like there was a stronger through line, or like I guess there's more added things in the anime to like strengthen the plot. Like each chapter is only like a few pages long. They don't last long compared to most manga chapters, and I feel like if these manga chapters were longer, I would probably enjoy this manga more. But so far it's okay. I'm probably gonna read volume 5 today, and then after that I'm probably not gonna buy the rest of the series. I might unhaul the series actually, I'm not sure yet. But what I will say about the series is that the art is really beautiful. The art just really stands out to me in this manga. Next up, let's talk about the book I was talking about earlier, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I finished this book. I would not recommend this to anyone in general. I know I said earlier that I would recommend this to someone if you had like a personal attachment to the series when you were younger. But I don't even think I would agree with that now after I've read this. There are just a lot of weird thoughts that the main character has that is honestly kind of concerning and creepy. This is another thing of like, this would be so much more interesting if it wasn't for the unnecessary fan service, because the fan service literally ruins the series for me. How the way female characters are written in the series, at least 2 of the female characters are in the series, really bothers me. So yeah, I'm probably still gonna read the rest of the series because I did like it when I was a child, but I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. And I honestly don't think it's worth the read if you have no context for this series at all. So now let's talk about the books that I'm currently reading. Last Gate of the Emperor. This is starting to turn into a dystopian, and I'm not sure if I feel the greatest about that. I don't know. I feel like it's okay so far, but like dystopians just really are my thing in general. But it's decent so far. I'm almost done with My Vampire vs. Your Werewolf. That's been so fun. Okay, so I'm not quite sure where this book is going to go in the last 50 pages. The battle has finished, and now there are some leftover plot lines that need to be handled. And I feel like there might be a rematch in the story. I'm not quite sure yet. But that's my prediction for now. I'm not sure if I got that right. Because, I don't know, something about the way the battle ended, I don't know, it felt kind of unsatisfying for me, just because I feel like the battle could have been a bit longer and we could have gotten more scenes in the battle. But overall, pretty decent series so far. I really am enjoying it, and it's starting to become tension filled, so it's gonna be great. And then let's talk about the book I'm gonna start today. I'm gonna start The Black Tides of Heaven. This is a Asian inspired fantasy novella series by an Asian author, and I also believe that the author is non-binary, so that'll be some great rep. But I honestly don't remember what this is about. I have had this book series on my radar ever since I was in high school, and I never read it until today. So I guess I just never had the actual motivation to pick it up until now. But I am really excited to get to this because when I first heard about it, it sounded really amazing. So I'm really excited to read this. That's what I've been reading recently. I will get back to you in the next day after I've read some more. It has been 2 days since I last checked in, and honestly, my reading has kind of slowed down in those last 2 days. However, I'm starting to get back into the swing of things. But I have finished 1 book, and I have bought some more books. I will say I bought these books and ordered them online before I started doing this TBR Minimize series. But anyways, I finished reading My Vampire vs. Your Werewolf. This was a really fun book. It's basically this just like action monster series where monsters fight each other. It's really fun so far. I did order the second book because I do have the rule that as long as it's in a series, I can order it. This was just a really fun, great middle grade. I think my only issue really was the characters. I feel like I wasn't getting enough from them. And also I felt like I wasn't getting enough from the dialogue at times. But overall, really great book. I really enjoyed it. Just a really fun action series. I will also say, I feel like the ending was a bit unsatisfying for me personally. Like, I understand what they were trying to do with the ending about, like, who versus the vampire or werewolf will win. I don't know, I just felt a bit unsatisfied by that, even though it was obvious to me who would win. But yeah, I would say it's kind of obvious who's going to win at the end of this battle, at least to me it is. So I'm curious to see where the rest of this series goes, and I am excited to read the second book in the series once I get it. I ordered these books from my bookstore a while ago, and so let's just talk about them. I heard from this one booktuber that this series was really good, and that is History Smashers. This is a nonfiction series basically telling the true stories of historical events. So I have the first book, The Mayflower, and the second book, Women's Right to Vote, and it basically goes over the historical events that happened during these time periods and basically correct like some false information that has been spread in the past. So I'm really curious to read these. These sound really fun. Yeah, I'm excited for these. And then the last book I hauled was The Witch's Apprentice. This is the third book in the Dragon in the Bag series. I don't know if I read the first book in this vlog. Maybe I did, but I am currently reading the second book. I'm currently reading The Dragon Thief, so I will be reading the third book after that eventually. So yeah, I'm currently reading The Dragon Thief. I'm currently 50 pages into it. It's only like a 160-page book, and then I'm gonna read The Witch's Apprentice. As for books I'm currently reading, like I said before, I am reading The Dragon Thief, but I am also reading The Black Tides of Heaven. I finally got farther into this book. I think I did mention this book earlier in another vlog clip. But from my understanding, this is basically about these two twins. And these two twins have special powers. One of them is able to predict the future. And the other one, I still haven't got a good grasp of what their powers are yet. Maybe I'm just missing something in this book. Like, I feel like I'm definitely missing something when it comes to this book, but I think I'll understand it the farther I get into it. But overall, so far it's a pretty good book. I don't think I've gone any farther in The Last Gate of the Emperor. Like I mentioned before, my reading has kind of slowed down these past 2 days, so I'm going to try reading again more consistently. I'm reading these 3 books. I'll see you guys later. Hello everyone, I am back. So, you know how I said in the last clip, I felt like I was finally getting back into the swing of things when it came to reading? Well, that was a lie. Basically what happened was a few days ago, my parents during the weekend were like, hey, what if we drove 4 hours to northern Washington to see a zoo/farm that you can drive through? And me and my sister were like, okay, sounds fun. So we drove 4 hours to northern Washington, to this farm. I forgot what it's called, but we basically saw a bunch of like farm animals and it was really fun. And then we drove like 4 to 5 hours back home. It was a lot and I was very tired after that day. So I did not get that much reading done that day or the day after, but I did finish 2 books in the meantime. So that is an improvement at least. So let's talk about the 2 books I read and then we're going to close this vlog. So the first book I read was The Black Tides of Heaven. This book I ended up giving 3 stars. So it follows these 2 characters, a boy and a girl, and in this world, basically everyone starts off as non-binary and then they choose their gender later in life, and we follow these 2 characters from their birth to when they start growing up and choose their genders, and it's about how these 2 twins end up falling apart like later in their lives. I think this book have been really interesting. I just feel like it focused on the wrong things. Like whenever something interesting would happen in this book, there would be a time skip to a less interesting part of the novel. I feel like this definitely shouldn't have been a novella and should have definitely been a full-on novel. It just felt very frustrating to me because like whenever I felt like we were getting somewhere interesting, we just skipped time to like the future where after the interesting thing has already happened, and that was very frustrating. Here's another thing, the other reason I gave this book 3 stars. So this book is basically about how these two siblings fall apart, how their relationship falls apart over time. And there are multiple reasons for why their relationship falls apart. However, there's this one big thing that's supposed to be seen as like the catalyst or the thing that like was the final nail in the coffin to their relationship, and I just felt like that final nail in the coffin was such bullshit. Like it felt so stupid to me. And here's the thing. I think it makes sense in this book for this to be the final nail in the coffin. And I don't think this will be an issue for most people. I honestly don't hate the idea, and I do think it's somewhat realistic what was the final nail in the coffin. I just personally hated it because I thought it was dumb. But I can see other people liking it. So yeah, I struggled with this book. I gave it 3 stars. I thought the relationship dynamics were good, but I did not like the way their relationship fell apart. I did not like the final blow of their relationship, and I also wasn't the biggest fan of like what this plot line focused on specifically. Anyways, I read that, and I also finished reading Inside Out and Back Again. It took me a month to read this book because I kept going back and forth from not reading it to reading it, but I finally just was like, I need to sit down and finish this. I give it 4 stars. It's basically about this girl who lives in Vietnam during the Vietnam War and how she escapes the Vietnam War. And it's basically about her like dealing with living in the US after like living her entire life in Vietnam. I think this book is very important. I think it's very good. It's basically about her just getting used to being in the US while also dealing with bullying and the way people treat her because she's Vietnamese. A thing that I liked about this book is that we follow her as she's a bully and when she gets bullied, and we see her reflect on her being a bully and like basically being like, oh my god, I was a terrible person and I need to fix my terrible mistake. I think that was a great scene. Overall, really good book. I gave it 4 stars. Let's see how far down my TBR has gone. I don't think it went down by much because most of my books I have on my TBR, once again, are comics and manga. I'm gonna try for the next TBR Minimized episode to focus on more comics and manga. I'm gonna try to read a comic or manga every day from now on so that way I can slowly chip away at it. So my current physical TBR is at 437, and I think last time I checked it was at 442. So it wasn't a big improvement, but it's a start. And I do think this is going to be like a year-long process, but it's okay. It'll take a while, but it'll be worth it. So yeah, those are the books I read for this week. Check out my next TBR Minimized episode. Anyways, that's everything for now, so goodbye.